It's finally engine time. I had pretty successful garage cleaning. We got some parts I threw in the washer. I'm just kind of letting the kerosene dry off them before we shelf that stuff. And then the fuel filter, I don't know that we'll use that one. I'm going to do some research on other options. I think a cat filter might be nice to have in there because that's a 1 micron. And people are saying that you can do 100,000 miles before you have to change it because it's so gigantic. It's for like heavy equipment and stuff. Yeah, so all this, organize our shelves a little bit, jam some stuff in the corner we don't care about. And I think that engine and then the smoker are going to go in the trailer after Thanksgiving, after we do the turkeys. Got rid of all the tile stuff, so the plan going forward is we're going to focus on engine. We're going to tear the things down and put things back together and clean it up before we move on to other stuff. Well, we might do a little painting in between. Either way, this will just be for engine stuff, so it all comes off, goes there, gets cleaned up, done whatever it needs to do, and back on. So tonight we'll just start tearing things down. And everything's loosened up. This is that connection that I was told would deteriorate and become disgusting and worthless. Except this guy is still connected. Breather tube. Off you go. There's some oil in it. But it certainly deteriorated and come apart. What it looks like to me is what was that? Anyway, what it looks like is the same radiator hose that I glued together with copper RTV a long ass time ago, and there's nothing boogery, there's nothing deteriorated. This adapter worked great for a long time. It'll take a minute to look up the exact date that I did that. Yep, went back and looked, and I made this adapter out of semi-truck radiator hose and copper RTV in 2010, August 2010. So it's been just over 10 years since I put this 1722 turbo in the car, and this thing looks, other than the dust on the outside, its integrity is exactly the same as I installed it. Oh, let's see. This is a 19, got it all loosened up. It's going to be gross. It's always gross, right? It's like you can change the oil in one of these diesels, drive it around the block, and it'll just be black as night. So, no surprise, this is just going to be disgusting. I wonder if it's going to go past the pan, being this high up. It's worse things have happened. Oh, nope. Because it's cold out and it's thick. Yeah, that should be fine. If it gets on the rail and makes a mess, we'll just wipe it off. I don't think there's anything left holding the intake on. Nope. So this wasn't clogged up and giving me codes, but I did do the fire blast thing on it. So looks like they're pretty clean. They're oily, right? Probably proof that turbo needs to be replaced. It's probably just spec oil. Unless it was all coming through the crankcase breather, which, yeah, that's oily and gross too. So should be everything. So I got the oil feed line off, oil drain lines off, shields and stuff are off, and then oddly enough, these are all 13 millimeters. So part of me wonders if I did ARP exhaust studs. I can't imagine when I put this turbo on 10 years ago that I didn't break a bunch, and then these are the shoulder nuts instead of this style. So like this would have been the originals. They're 12 millimeter with a big washer. So I think this should come off pretty easy. We'd hope. We'll leave one of these on top for last. So, oh yeah, it slides right off. It's got to be ARP stuff. I must have done that when I put the turbo on. It's like, why wouldn't you spend the extra 50 or 70 bucks or whatever? So let me get the rest of those, get this turbo off of here. Okay, because that should be everything. Get this oil line kind of up and out of the way maybe. Yeah, I don't know. I think it'll deal with itself. We just need somewhere to grip. We're confident. Oh, yep. Try to poke my wiener right off. We'll put you down here for now. So we still gotta get exhaust stuff off. yeah, it's a turbo. So we'll have to get some, get a spot made for it, get the downpipe off, and see about taking it apart further, just to kind of inspect stuff. We especially want to look in the vanes and see how they're looking. When I first got this turbo, it's a 1722, right? Because that was the cool thing a decade ago. They don't even make them anymore, I don't think. There's just better stuff out there. Now we've got a little space on the back here. Like, look at the thickness. If I just, yeah, that's what I'm dealing with. So like, I'm gonna be able to physically scrape this off. Oop. Oh, that's fine. It's just dirty oil. Like, oh, it's gonna take forever to clean. Guess it's just time, right? We're only limited in time, so might as well spend it cleaning the oil off the diesel. Hooray, a turbo. So this I adjusted last year, so it's at the right length. But we're gonna go ahead and pop these two bolts, the clip up here, and just get that off the arm. Then we'll see what kind of arm movement we have. When I moved it last time, I moved all the way, so it should be fine. So really all you have is that stop, and then an adjustment here to do the throw based on the vacuum coming in this end. They're really simple to deal with. But what we really want is to get that out of the way and get all those bolts off and see if the center housing and the cold side will come out of the manifold so we can look at the vanes. So the last time I had something I was poking in here on a stock turbo, trying to pound it that way with a hammer, hoping it'll just boop and pop free. I don't know. I don't know what the best way is going to be. Either way, I'll get up on the tripod so I can use both hands. Maybe it'll pop apart. Probably won't. Probably just going to end up breaking it, trying to get inside and have to buy a new one anyway. So we'll see. I'd really like to get it apart. I think the way to get this apart is not necessarily brute force or ignorance. Probably a combination of the two. Or I just spray some penetrating oil on it the next couple days, take things easy, try to get it to break up on its own, and then poke at it some more. Because I would hate to have to buy a turbo. It's not at this point in my life, it's not a massive expense, but it's enough of an expense that it's upsetting, right? So, yeah, I'll think about it. Okay, watched a dude, seemed to know what he was talking about because he had a bunch of rusty turbos everywhere. And essentially you have this outside surface, then there's like a heat shieldy area that gets all rusty. And he's talking about propping these up upright, and then you just spray the snot out of them and let it sit in there for a couple days. So I think we need to put a block of wood under that to get it more vertical, and we'll spray in there like crazy and just leave it overnight. Yeah, it should be good. I got stacks of washers kind of propping it. Feels stable enough. There's no wind in here. We're not going to open the garage door. We're just going to absolutely douse this thing in Croil. Just really get it in there. And then I'm going to go ahead and repeat this in the morning on my way to work. And then tomorrow night, after the boy goes to bed, we'll do the same thing. Just let it sit in there, let it work. Hopefully then, he showed a technique, and it's going to be more difficult than the guy's example, because on his, the exhaust housing was much bigger than the cold side, the compression side. And he's going with a hammer and hitting this right across from each other, boom, 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 and each time making sure this still moves and hasn't contacted the side. So yeah, maybe we'll have luck with that. It'd be nice to get in there and you know, really clean those veins up. You can even see maybe the Croil will help clean them up too. No. Yeah. Right, so we're going to brave the cold temperatures today and not run the heater. I've never run that one for a long time like that, and it made the inside of the house kind of stink, so my wife's not too happy about that. Okay, so there's not really a lot of good spots, so I think I might actually hit tap on this mount, see if it just taps out, but I got to hold it up on this side. The dude made it look so easy because he had a giant cold side, or sorry, a small cold side and this big old hot side where it was sticking way out. But it's so close to those threads, I don't want to like squish them in. Oh, it just moved. Hell yeah. So now, so you can feel it. It's kind of touching, right? It still moves, but it's touching. So we got this area right here. We need to go straight across from it. Maybe we should. No, it's so heavy. I don't want it to hang and be flopping around with all that weight. I think we just want it to pop off. I think that's good. Maybe. So none of the fins have any marks on them from doing that. I don't know, it looks like it's probably just a heat shield we heard scraping, not the wheel itself. Now we'll be able to sit here and measure the play too. So, all right, that's an exciting process. I never thought that would come apart. All right, let me get into the meat of it and get a better angle. Okay, so this is really good. You'll be able to see everything, how a variable vane works. For those that haven't dealt with these before, essentially what you have is that lever right here, right, that the actuator moves. It'll move that little guy, and he looks like all of his friends in here. Oh, that's gonna be hard to see. Flashlight. So it moves those, right? So each one of these has a vane attached. You can see them kind of touching each other because they should want to move together. It's just greasy and gross. So I think that whole thing will come off with screws, right? And then you can see the other side of it. We'll get into that after we clean it up, because at this point there's nothing in this turbo, from what I recall, it can't have kerosene on it. So we can get her up in the parts washer and really give this a wash test. Everything's just filthy, right? But regardless of that, here's that ring. Now, it's not, well, is it symmetrical? I don't think it's symmetrical. It only goes one way, but for our purposes, you can see if this ring was there, it would pivot like this. And then all the arms here go inside each one of these pockets. And then these guys that fell out go on these pins, and they space that ring away so it's not rubbing on stuff. But when it's all crudded up like this, I mean, where's my little screwdriver? Like, you know, it's pretty thick, sludgy, nasty, all kinds of stuff, right? So, yeah, it's gross. And that can make it kind of hang up a little bit. So, like, this doesn't, like it did when it was all together. Like, this is completely free, it doesn't jam up or anything. So it's definitely all this crud and gunk that was holding us back. And for indexing things, when you put it back together, see there's this little tiny dowel pin right there, and this will point straight at it when they're pointed straight out. So right here is that hole, right, that it goes in. And so if you make all your fins point straight out, which is a lot easier to do when these are clean, these will flop all over, but you'd get it vertical, like in a vise or something, point all these straight out. Then you could take your ring, which will only fit this way, straight towards that pin, and you just put all the tips in. Well, actually, you know what? This does look symmetrical, which would make sense, because then you don't have to put it on one way or the other, and you won't hurt anything. But yeah, it can be a pain in the butt to get this in, along with all these little guide pins, right? So that sits there and it rolls on it. That's what keeps it centered and keeps it away from the edge. I've had it apart before. You can do it. I think the next step is to get the parts washer moving. Just hose this stuff down and clean it up so we're not constantly getting cancer all over ourselves. And we'll also be able to see what kind of bit that takes to pull the whole cartridge out and clean the vanes themselves. Should also mention that the only reason this is all wet and nasty like this is because we filled it with penetrating fluid trying to get it apart. Normally if you had like a newer turbo and banged it apart, this will be like powdery and parts of it will compact together, and that's what jams these up and keeps them from moving. We're already looking cleaner. Got some crusties on there so that I can scrape up, so we're not perfect, but do we need to be? Right? We just want the bulk off. This guy's looking way better. And then we got 3 T25s to pull that piece out, so make sure I don't lose this stuff that I haven't cleaned yet. See if those pop out or not. It's maybe a bad idea. I'm really not sure. Yeah, nice. Wonder if that is sectional and come off. Oh yeah, it's sliding right out. So I'll be able to get in there and make sure the vanes themselves aren't all goofy and full of snot. They probably are. Actually, they probably look pretty good, all that penetrating fluid, and then flushing it out with kerosene. They're gonna look spot on. Oh yeah, of course, there's more stuff in there to fill out. Looks like, oh yeah, go down inside the turbo. So we got 3 standoffs for these bolts, and one of them went inside. So we're gonna have to get him to come out. Let's see. Probably roll it this way. There we go. Piece of cake. As expected, it's not real jammed up because probably because of all the penetrating fluid. But you can kind of see how these operate, right? As you would have, they'd all kind of go in the same direction here. And like this one, see that one's backwards, right? We want it below his friends, I think. Yeah, I think we want them all, no, because we want them all pointing straight out as their default position, right? That's how we're going to end up setting it up. Just there. You just want to make sure they're not overlapping, right? So like this guy. Yeah, so something like that is normal. And then when you come around, oops, see, you don't want them going inside each other. But essentially you'd have, they can close off, right? And that creates a lot more back pressure on the engine, less exhaust flow, right? Kind of chokes everything off. And then when the vanes open way up, we have lots of exhaust flow, less back pressure, more spooling, that kind of stuff. Well, it's going to hang out like this for a while. I don't have excessive play. I'm not even going to bother measuring it. Just working with stuff like this for long enough, it's not wiggling around too much. I do worry about oil in the intake. Now, we just pumped it full of kerosene, so we can't really talk too much about it. So I think we put this back on because we know it works. If we find it's blowing too much oil through, once everything's cleaned up and we can better see what's going on, pull a pipe, put a drain on the intercooler or something like that, we can always replace the turbo further down the road. As far as how it sits right now, we don't have any wear on either surface from the fins. All the fins look good. The only noise we hear is from this little heat shield thingy that will be sitting still once it's installed. So yeah, I think it's fine to keep running for the time being. It's not going to grenade or anything. And really, I don't want to mess with the engine anymore tonight either. Got a 4-day weekend coming up because of the holiday, so I'll just poke away at a couple things here and there during the week. The other part is that this is my last blue shop towel. Wait, this is my last blue shop towel. They didn't have them at Costco. I normally buy the big packs of them, and I'll just chuck a bunch of them up out of the way and pull them down as I need them. And they were all out. So I don't know if it's all the TP bandits stealing up whatever they can that they can wipe with and ruining my day or what. But I definitely don't want to have to go to the parts store to buy those because they're way too expensive. So maybe I'll drop in the store. I don't want to fight all the holiday shoppers either. Maybe I can find somewhere to order these things online, see what the price is like. Either way, we're done for now.